Hey friends, today I'm going to show you how I added a custom painted spine with dragons to my copy of Iron Flame. This is a copy I got from Half Price Books that did come with the black sprayed edges, but I have my copies of Onyx Storm and Fourth Wing that have dragons on the spine, and I thought I would like all three books to have that. So I decided I can't be buying every special edition of every book. It's just not feasible and it's just not sustainable. So I got a copy from Half Price Books and added the dragons to the spine myself. There's definitely more than one way for you to add something to your edges. For this particular video, I used a stencil I made with my silhouette and some foil deco paper. However, I have done some with paint, so you could really follow this exact same process and get some gold paint or silver or whatever color you want to add some extra fun to your spines. So let me walk you through how I did this. It's super quick and easy and super fun, especially if you want some of your books to match without buying all of these extra special edition versions.
The first thing that I did was measure the spine. So you can see that mine already does have these black sprayed edges. I just wanted to add the dragons to match this gold spine. So I'm choosing to use gold. So I just used a regular ruler. I originally measured the top and the side because I was going to do dragons on all the edges. And you just get some measurements in inches and open up your design software. I am using Silhouette Studio. So I started by just creating rectangles and creating images to use. So this is just a search of dragon SVGs on Creative Fabrica. You can choose whatever ones that you would like. There's a whole bunch of different options, and I will put a link down below for you to grab some. So in Silhouette Studio, I made the 3 rectangles for each of the 3 edges of my book, and then I brought in the dragon SVG that I'm going to use. I made it smaller and made sure I spaced them out evenly and made them all align properly. I ended up deciding that I'm just going to do the one edge and just use one stencil. So I'm cutting with permanent vinyl. I just used some old random color permanent vinyl, and then I'm going to weed it. So I ended up cutting a rectangle and all of the dragons because it's easier to line up. I'm using permanent vinyl. You can use whatever you have. If you have stencil vinyl or even removable, anything really will work. So once you apply your stencil, you're going to want a book press because you want all of your pages to be, nice and snug together so you don't get any paint in between the pages. So go ahead and use some transfer paper. Double check that you're putting it on in the right orientation. You want to make sure that your dragons aren't upside down or whatever design that you choose. So I put on my vinyl using my squeegee tool, making sure it's nice and stuck, and carefully pulling away that transfer paper and just making sure that it's pressed down because you don't want any paint to leak. If you use just a thin layer of glue and paint, it'll all work. But you just want to make sure it's nice and stuck down. So I'm using these foil sheets that I already had, as well as tack it over and over glue. So this glue does dry tacky, and that's what helps the foil stick to it. So I'm just using a random paintbrush and applying a thin layer of the glue. You are going to want to let your glue dry a little bit so it's clear. So it goes on white. You just need a thin layer, and then it really just took a couple minutes, maybe 10 minutes of letting it dry for it to turn a little bit clear. And then I'm going to use the foil to get those gold flecks in that dragon shape. So I'm just applying the sheet and applying pressure with my finger and then my squeegee tool, and then I added some heat. So just a handheld little heat press to really get that foil adhered to that glue. And once you pull up your foil, you'll see how well it is. Mine was pretty good, but I needed a little bit more. So I just used a separate sheet, like space on the foil. You can use any space that is still intact. So I just added a little bit more heat, a little bit more pressure to make sure that I had that full dragon. If you're missing any, you could also apply another layer of glue and do the whole thing again. So it really just kind of depends on your setup, how your foil's working, how your glue's working, but you can always do like a second coat. Once I did that, I removed the stencil and cleaned up any spaces. So because I applied heat on this vinyl, there was a little bit of residue from the vinyl that was sticky, in between these dragons. So I used my weeding tool to pull up any vinyl that I missed, and then I actually put a little bit of rubbing alcohol on a paper towel and wiped away some of that residue. This is super old vinyl, so it might be better if you use something a little bit newer, but the last thing you need to do is just take out the book from your press and separate each page. This does take some time because they will stick together a little bit, and I like to just very, very carefully go through each page. As you can see, like, you can try to just separate it, but I just go through each page and very carefully remove the pages from each other, and you'll want to go slow. But then this way you won't have your pages sticking together after that. So it's super easy to add the gold foil in your dragon shape. You can use whatever stencil you want. You could use paint even. I just wanted the gold foil to match the spine for this book.
In my next video, I'm actually going to show you how I turn this paperback into a hardcover edition of Fourth Wing. So if you want to watch that video, I'm going to put it up on your screen.